Hello world, I'm back. Let's keep working on this game. Live every day like it's pretzel day. This is your daily reminder. Pause this timer last time. Let's see, got a new timer app. This should work. Let me see. Zoom. There we go. Cool. All right. When last I left off, compiling's being slow because I copied my project to set up version control and stuff. Nothing is cached yet. Might take a second for it to run. Okay, there we go. All right, so fly around. Got a little asteroid over here. Whoop. Add a gun to my ship. Boop. Add a gun to my ship. Boop. Got lasers you can shoot. Where'd that asteroid go? I lost it. I think I shot it off the screen. Like how my lasers just kind of scatter around and bounce off of things. All right. Let's jump in. I'm going to do a longer dev session today than I have previously. This will probably be like 3 or 4 hours, but broken up a little bit whenever I get groceries delivered. So I'm going to have a pause break in there, but I'm going to try to knock out a good amount of this today. So let's do it. What needs to happen next? I think, so when you build, you will notice that the laser here has snap points on 3 sides, which means it should be able to attach here, or in theory on the front if things have snap points on the front. And that's all well and good, but you should not be able to place this block behind things if there's not a snap point up in front. So I need to put in sort of a validation check where if you try to place a piece and you mouse over a spot, it will validate whether the piece will fit in that slot or not, and block you if you try to. So I think the way I want this to work is when you pull out a piece and it displays all of these slots, that it will put slots in red if the piece will not fit in them, and green if the piece will fit in them. And actually validate the piece. After that, we can kind of add the notion of rotating pieces to point in different directions, but I think that's what I'm going to do next here. Get out of here, asteroid. So I'm going to update this overlay here, say ship building rules. All right, let's do it. Let's get our scripts up here. Also going to start sorting my scripts a little bit here. So bullets, and we'll put bullets in gameplay. We'll do ship related stuff, build piece, build slot, ship builder. Actually, let's do ship building, build piece, build slot, ship builder, snap point, direction. Those all go in here. gameplay. Ship controller. I'll do ship in here. All right, just making it hard to find things a little bit. So let's get our shipbuilder script up. And the build slots are let's actually go to the script for build slots and be able to set their color. So that we can set the slots to like red if they're blocked or green if they're not. And then, so where's this validation happening where we're checking the available slots? Calling ship.visualize build area. I think what we can do is pass in a build piece. Whoops. Optionally. And if we pass in a piece, then it'll set the appearance of the slots appropriately. So we're iterating through the build slots. None of this matters if it's set to not visible. So if we're setting the build area to be visible, we're going to get all the available slots for each of them. We'll set it visible if it's one of the available slots, and then also set its color. Let's say slot dot set display color. We'll say if. So first we need a method to check if a piece can be placed in a given slot. So let's do that logic. Let's go to build slot and say we want to be able to hand a piece to a build slot and say, hey, can this piece be placed here? Does it fit here or not? Okay. And we have a stub method for this, but haven't really implemented the full logic of it yet, so. What is it called? Build piece? So if, first off, If this slot's not empty, return false, because we can't place anything there. Otherwise, we want to check if the piece fits. So a piece fits if there is an available snap point pointed at the direction of the ship, and there are no snap points that conflict with another piece that doesn't have a snap point. So what we're going to want to do is say for each of the four directions, north, south, east, west, if we have a snap point in that direction, we want to make sure that that direction is either open or that there's another piece there that also has a snap point facing at us, to make sure that there's not a conflict. So if we have a snap point in that direction, check if there's a slot in that direction. If the neighbor is not null, so if there's a slot in that direction, and okay, so if there's a neighbor in that direction, and that neighbor is not empty, and the neighbor has a piece that conflicts with us, meaning if the neighbor has a piece that doesn't have a snap point facing at us, then we're going to return false. So how do we check that? If the neighboring slot has a build piece, and that build piece has a snap point faced back at us. So if we're looking at our neighbor to the east, we want to look at what snap point it has facing to the west. And we do that by adding 2 to the index that we're looking at. Whoops. And then dividing it by 4 and taking the remainder. So, for instance, if we are looking east, then that is 0. So 0 plus 2 is 2. 2 mod 4 is 2, which returns west. If we are looking west, then this is 2 plus 2 is 4. Mod 4 is 0, which is east. Okay, yeah. So we're doing I+2 mod 4 is just going to return the opposite direction. I can actually put in a helper method for this. Potentially. But I'll just leave it hard-coded for now. So if the neighbor's not null, and it has a piece in it, and that piece does not have a snap point faced at us, then we conflict with an adjacent piece and cannot attach. So that's what this whole loop is. So we check if the slot's already full. If it is, we return false. We check if there's an adjacent piece in any direction that doesn't have a snap point pointed at us. If it does, then there's a conflict and we return false. Then, whoops. What else do we check? We want to make sure that there's at least one place to attach that lines up with one of our snap points. So that we're not just attaching into the empty void. So we'll check all 4 directions again. If we have a snap point in a direction, we check for a neighbor. And if the neighbor is not null and it's not empty, and it does have a snap point pointed at us, then we return true. If we check all the directions and never find that, then we return false. So check if there's a valid place to attach. That's good. All right. So now where are we going to use this method? Ship builder. Let's instantiate the build piece, set its snap points visible. Then after we've instantiated it, we'll pass a reference to it into visualize build area and say, hey, check where this can be built. Okay. So hello, how's it going? Evening. You're in a very different time zone. You live on the other side of the big pond. How's it going? Doing good, doing good. Working on some shipbuilding rules here. Just getting it set up so that we can check if a piece fits into a slot on the ship. And I'll demo what that looks like in a minute. Working on your own 3D engine. That's fun. Coding it up from scratch. Range build slots. Nice. What type of game do you want to be able to make for it, or are you trying to make it kind of a generic thing? Is it to support making a particular type of game? Color dot. It's a really good exercise building that stuff from scratch. It's hard and it's a lot, but you learn a lot doing all that kind of low-level stuff. Closest I got was doing computer graphics courses in college, where we had to kind of write rendering logic from scratch. Definitely not easy. Sweet. Just got a message. Okay, cool. Getting groceries delivered in a few minutes, so I'll have a little pause, but not yet. Working on 3D, yeah. Green, red. Let's try this. All right, so I should be able to test this code now. Fly around our little ship. Say we want to add a gun to the ship. Add gun. Slots are green. I like it. Boop. Nice. We cannot place the piece there because there's a conflict. So the valid places are shown in green. The invalid places are shown in red. It still lets us place in the red spots, but that's okay. Because that's easy to turn off now. So add a gun to the ship. Add a gun to the ship. Fly around. Pew, 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 pew. Get out of here, asteroid. All right. So let's do some validation now. Actually, let's make these colors settable so that I can kind of customize them a little bit. Or actually, I'll just keep it simple for now. Build slots. So, ship builder code, we visualize the build area. When snapping, try snap. So we're iterating all the build slots. If the slot we're checking see, where's a reference to our piece? Current piece. If the current piece doesn't fit in the slot we're targeting, continue. Just skip right over it. So now this should completely ignore slots that Our piece doesn't fit in. Look at that. No snap. Snap, no snap. Snap, no snap. Beautiful. That is nice. Ah, the lopsided ship. Nice, nice, nice. All right. So I think, yeah, I want the ability to set the colors of these slots. Let's say actually, let's set this on the slot itself. I want to be able to designate two colors so that we can kind of desaturate the ones that aren't buildable and make them fade into the background a little bit. Oops. Let's do this. Go to that build slot. I like this little, maybe I'll saturate this up a little bit. There's our nice green color. Set that as the valid color, and then when this is invalid, we want to go into red and probably fade this back a lot. So that the invalid slots are a little bit more hidden. What do I call this? I'm going to remove this. Valid color. Yeah. That is a good question. Not something I'm super knowledgeable about. piece fits. If the piece to place is not null, then set the color accordingly. Otherwise, just set it to true. So we'll set them to that default green color if there's not a piece being placed. All right, let's see how this goes. Come on, Unity. There we go. Okay, add piece, boom, add piece. Look at that, nice. That nice little desaturated red there to show that it doesn't fit in that spot. Cool. Okay. So we have validation on where things can fit. I think I want to add another piece now that's just a default connector, kind of. Let's add a new ship piece. It should be really easy to create now. Just a default four-way connector piece. Let's kill the triangle. Make it a gray square. No fire point. No laser logic. Connect in all four directions. And then I'm going to add a button to build these. So the add gun button. Let's make the UI visible. Let's just say connector. Okay. Oh yeah. And we want, when we click on the connector button, for it to instantiate the new piece we created. So instead of gun, we give it connector. Let's try this. So we want to add a gun, put it there. We want to add a connector, put it there. Connector. Oh, that is interesting. One of those slots. Oh, I thought one of the slots was a different color, but it wasn't. All right. So this is interesting. Oh yeah, that doesn't have a connector right there. Okay, cool. Oh, interesting. So this doesn't have a connector there, but I'm going to have to add the notion of blocking in a direction so that we leave room for things like thrusters, lasers, that kind of thing. That's all well and good. Oh, and this isn't giving me the result I want. Okay. A couple of buggy things going on here. This is looking cool though. So I think there's a couple of cases here where this is returning strange results that I don't want. So I'm going to diagnose why that is. But I'm actually going to have to pause for a minute. Got groceries delivering, so I'm going to put up a BRB screen. And I'll be back in a few minutes. Let me pause my timer. And I'm going to estimate about 10 minutes. All right, so I will be right back. Hello, back. Sorry about that delay. That was longer than I intended. Had to clean up a lot. All right. Continuing. Where was I? Connector. Oh, yeah. So there seem to be some issues in the building logic here. At least something's not working as intended. So connector, connector, connector. Connector. This is all fine. This should not be the case. Okay, so currently there's a piece in a direction where I do not have a connector. I don't think I put in a condition to check for that, so let's do that. So, like if I have a piece like a gun that can't have anything directly in front of it, it needs to check if there's anything in front of it when it does that. So, let's see. Build slot. Piece fits. If the slot is already full, return false. If there's adjacent pieces blocking me, return false. We check for a valid place to attach right at the end. Okay. So for each of my snap points, check if there's a neighbor conflicting with it that does not have a snap point. And for each of my directions that does not have a snap point, if there is a neighbor slot that is not empty, I think that's just where we end it. If there's a neighbor slot that's not empty, then that means I have a direction that I can't snap onto things, and there's something there in my way. So I need to return false. So this would be like the nozzle of a gun or the jet of a thruster if I'm trying to attach it and there's something else in the way there. This needs to block being able to place that. So let's try this. So I'll put on some connectors, put on a gun, doop, put on another gun. Nice. Connector. Cool. So now we can no longer place guns directly behind other guns. Cool. It's looking pretty cool. I think there's one more thing I want to check here. Which is spots like this, like right behind the thruster. I don't want there to be a build slot there because there should never be any opportunity to place anything in a blocked location. So when we get all of the available pieces, I want to check for that case. So let's go to visualize build area and just not show slots in places like right behind engine jets and right in front of gun lasers and things like that. So get available build slots should not return places like that. So for each build slot, we go through each of its neighbors. I think if that neighbor If the neighbor's not null and the neighbor's not empty, and oops, so if there's a neighboring slot and there's a piece in that slot and that piece does not have a snap point faced at us, in the opposite direction. So we're doing that I+2 mod 4 again. Then we continue. Actually, we can't just continue here. So this will just continue checking additional neighbors and might still end up placing the slot. So we actually need to check all the neighbors first to see if it's blocked by anything. Yep, back again. Sorry, I was gone longer than I intended. So we're checking all the neighbors. If blocked, return. So no, continue. So to recap what's happening here, for each build slot, we're going to check in each of its 4 neighbor directions, and if the neighbor exists, has a piece in it, and that piece isn't able to connect in our direction, we mark it as blocked. We break out. If it's blocked, then we continue to looking at the next slot. Otherwise, we check if we have a valid place to attach, and if we do, then we add this to the list of slots we're looking at. Oof. All right. So what this should do is block us from being able to build behind jets and in front of guns and stuff like that. So connector, boop, that still works. Connector, boop. Well, it's still showing a build slot back here, and it's not supposed to be. So this did not work. Am I getting errors? No. Let's try this again. Oh, you are also back. Hello. All right. So, for each slot, for each direction. If our neighbor is not null and our neighbor is not empty, and our neighbor does not have a snap point in the opposite direction, oh, I'm checking the wrong thing here. Well, am I? For each slot, check all of its neighbors. If its neighbor is not null and its neighbor is not empty, and its neighbor does not have a snap point in our direction, mark it as blocked and continue to looking at a different slot. This should work. I'm not sure why it's not. At least it looks to me like it should work. I have to sit here and think through the logic for a minute. So why are we showing a red slot here? That's blocked, so it shouldn't be showing up. It's a little hard to see on the background, but there's a red slot on the thruster that should just be no slot at all. Get available build slots. Oh, this is going through all of the build pieces, checking their neighbor slots. I see. What I need to do is, I see what I'm doing wrong. I was thinking that it was checking slot by slot, but it's checking piece by piece to get neighbor slots. So what I need to do is go through and find candidate slots. Let's make this cleaner. We need to add a method that just checks if a slot is blocked. So we're going to check each direction. And for each of its neighbors, if it's not empty and it doesn't have a snap point faced at us, then we're going to return blocked. This should work. And I'm going to rename this to make it a little clearer. Is slot blocked by neighbor? Let's try that. Ah, not a tabletop game. Making a video game. This channel is for a bunch of things. Mostly we do tabletop RPGs and stuff, but this is a game dev project that I decided to stream on here as well. Slightly different target audience, but I figured some people here might be interested to see it. Connector, beautiful. Stick a gun on there, stick a gun on there, All right. Got building rules. Got all the basic building rules I wanted to get in. Though building a tabletop game would also be really fun. All right. Connector. Cool. So, I think it's time to do a new task. These lasers don't do anything right now. So I think I would like to do weapons and damage. Actually, let's just call it weapon damage. Starting with a basic laser. Make it do damage to stuff when it hits stuff. And yes, I'm still suffering. All right. So right now, when we shoot the lasers at these things, first of all, the laser just bounce off with physics, which is not at all what we want. Second of all, they just push the asteroids away. So it's time to do logic for weapons hitting stuff. So let's make a script for it. Actually, we have a script for it. Bullet. So we want for these projectiles, we don't want them to just push against things and bounce off. We want them to, like, when they hit something, trigger a behavior to happen. So first of all, let's set these to triggers. So now they should pass through things. Yeah, nice. And let's make them first detect when they pass over something. So yeah, so the idea is there's a kind of invisible grid that's like 5 by 5 around your cockpit of the ship, which is this square here. And you can attach pieces onto it. And when you go to add a piece, it highlights all the places you can legally place it. So like if I go out far enough, I'll hit the bounds. Can't go further that way. Can't go further that way. And there's different types of pieces. Right now there's just connectors that are like 4-way connectors. And there's guns that always face forward that can be connected on 3 sides. And the front has to be open for the gun to shoot out. And the guns can't have anything directly in front of them. And the thrusters can't have anything directly behind them. And I think you'll be able to hit yourself eventually, so you'll want to have the guns on the front of the ship and stuff, but I'm going to add logic for that next. So right now I'm doing logic for guns to be able to hit things. So what's the Unity method for when a trigger enters something? On trigger enter? On trigger enter. On trigger, enter. Collider other. Print the name of the other object. Whenever we enter a trigger. Let's do this. First, just to test if we're detecting when the bullets pass through something. So I'll put a gun on the ship, fire a bullet. Well, it printed out. Okay, it's not printing out anything. Fair enough. Didn't work. So why didn't that work? Does the bullet have a collider on it? It does. All right. So on trigger enter gets called on which object? When a game object collides with another game object, Unity calls on trigger enter. When two game objects collide, both objects must contain a collider component. One must have trigger enabled and contain a rigid body. Okay, so this seems like it should be getting called. So why is it not? Will damage destroy connectors? Yeah. So the idea is that each part of your ship will have a health bar or health value. I'm not sure how I'm going to visualize it yet, but if a particular part of the ship gets hit enough times, it will destroy that piece. And then if anything else ceases to be connected to the ship because of that, those pieces will all fall off and blow up as well. So your ship will be damageable and destructible to projectiles and enemies and things. Friendly fire, I'm still deciding a little bit, but I feel like I do want friendly fire to affect your ship so that it enforces kind of restrictions on how you can build your ship so that you don't, like if you build a laser pointed into your ship and fire it, it should hit your ship and blow it up. And that's the only time it should come up for the most part. So I think the default behavior should be that all projectiles, yours or enemies, if they hit your ship, they'll do damage to that piece of the ship, and each piece can be destroyed independently. At least that's the idea. And it should be cool to see things kind of go off in a chain reaction. So like if you have a long skinny ship and a section of the middle of it gets blown up, you lose like a whole bunch of blocks and they'll go and just kind of pop off. I want there to be kind of consequences to how you build the ship and consequences to where you get hit on your ship. So that's kind of part of the gameplay. All right, so these bullets are not presently hitting the asteroid at all. Collider, on trigger. On trigger stay. I don't think this will work if the other method wasn't working, but I'm just going to check it real quick. It's not detecting when the projectiles hit the asteroid right now. Yeah, it's not doing anything. Okay. There is like a matrix of conditions for when different trigger methods happen. Collision matrix, that's what I was looking for. So when you have a rigid body collider and a rigid body trigger collider, a message should be sent. The asteroid is a rigid body with a collider, and the bullet is a rigid body with a trigger collider. Let's test something. I'm going to see if a collision message is getting sent to the asteroid and not the bullet, or vice versa. Asteroid. Not sure why this isn't working. This should be a pretty simple thing, but I'm obviously missing something. See if the asteroid script prints anything out when the bullets pass through it. No, it's not. Hide the UI. All right, the asteroid has a nice little 2D polygon collider, and it should be working. The bullets, their collider is 2D as well, right? Rigid body 2D, capsule collider 2D. Yeah. So the bullets have a collider. Everything's on the default layer. Why are these collisions not happening? Here's a possibility. Maybe it has to do with how I'm moving the bullets. See if this prints anything. No. Oh. How am I moving these bullets? What am I using? Software am I using? This is Unity. Use AutoMass. Bullets. Okay, this is using velocity and it is using physics. So why is this not triggering? Because when I make this not be a trigger, it clearly hits the thing because it moved. Why is this not triggering? Rigid body trigger. Even if they were both triggers, this should be getting called. What happens if I make the asteroid a trigger? Does that make any difference? This shouldn't make a difference. Put a gun. Oops. Put a gun. Nope. Very odd. Come on, Unity. Why you do this to me? Whether the collider is used by an attached effector or not. Attached composite collider. That shouldn't matter, but that's interesting that that's a thing. Bullet. This is the same bullet that's being instantiated, right? Pulse laser. Bullet. Very odd. We'll slow the bullets way down. I don't think anything's clipping through anything. Nope. That shouldn't matter. It is simulated. Collision detection continuous. Not doing anything. Oh, is there a 2D version of this? Because this is taking collider. Just had an idea. Physics. Rigid body 2D. Trigger. Collider 2D. It's there is a 2D version of these methods. How dumb. That's what's going on. It all works the same, but it's named differently. Dumb. Let's make these fast again. I think maybe a little less fast though. 2D versions of the trigger methods. Oh wait, script error. Takes in a collider 2D. Yep. Thanks, Unity. Yeah, it makes sense. And yeah, this is non-RPG stuff here. This is not typically what we do on the channel, but mixing it up a bit. There we go. Oh, it's printing out all these messages. Yeah, so I'm planning to do some game dev streams because what I work on during the daytime, in addition to RPG and board game stuff on here. So there will be some amount of this stuff going on, as well as the usual content with our RPG campaign. All right. Cool. So we're getting collisions now. Oof. I'm going to get rid of that asteroid script because it was kind of a placeholder thing. Yeah, I didn't realize that all the physics methods were duplicated to have a 2D version and a 3D version. That was annoying. Waste of my time. But a mistake I won't make again. For a while. Bullets. Alright, so. We want to So let's do damaging objects. I think when objects take damage, I like when 2D games do that little flash, just like a color flash, super quick one, so that you can tell when an object has been hit. Nice little bit of visual feedback. So I'm going to create that little animation, and then I'm going to put in a component that makes things damageable, so that when they get hit, it'll flash that little feedback thing. And it can be self-contained, so the same piece of logic can be on the player ship pieces, obstacles, enemies. We can just slap this component on everything, and it'll make them detect when they get hit, flash for damage, and maybe put in some notion of like health tracking, so that we can tell them how much damage to take from projectiles, and then when they get to 0, they'll trigger some death logic that can be different for every object. So the first thing is going to be getting a little animation on there so that we can tell when things get hit. So let's do that. Trying to remember, Unity's animation system is so convoluted. Is it animation or animator? I think it's animator. Actually, hold on. I think there's a cleaner way to do this. You go to animation or animator. Animation, create a clip. Animations. We'll call this damage flash. What's up? Welcome to the party. Going to add color of the sprite renderer. Why are these all set to 0.33 actually? That's a little odd. Oh, because I have it tinted. It's fine, I'll make the asteroid white for now. So, at the start and the end of the animation, we want everything to be the normal default color. And we want to kind of flicker. Let's add a keyframe. Well, that was very odd. Only added a keyframe for G? How am I? Doing good. Going to let's add I don't think we want to mess with the alpha value, so let's do add another keyframe. Is there a way to copy these keyframes? Okay, whatever. Let's do... So we want it to kind of flicker to solid red. And then back to white. Let's play this. Boop. Okay, we have a little red blip when it gets hit. We probably want it to go much faster than this, but let's pause for a second. Trying to figure out, can I copy these keyframes and then paste them over here? Yes, I can. Woo! Good. Except that wasn't exactly what I wanted. Copy, paste, copy, paste, and can I adjust the length of the animation? Maybe if I delete these keyframes at the end, it'll adjust the length. There we go. Pew, 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 pew. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna play this super fast when things get hit by bullets. Okay. Damage flash. Can I adjust the playback speed of this? I think maybe not. I think maybe I just have to shorten everything in this way. Not quite sure of the right way to do this, but this seems to work. Nice. Loop time? Nope. Play damage flash and then go back to the default. Okay. There's what a damage flash looks like each time it gets hit. Boop. It's just a little double blink to red. Nice little bit of feedback. Okay, not bad. How do I rename this? There we go. So damage flash. Cycle offset. There's what I was looking for. Has exit time. Okay, that's what I was looking for. I want there to be no transition duration here. I just want it to happen. Just immediately go to the other animation. Boop, 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 boop. Little telltale heart. And then this has its duration. If I turn off exit time, does that mean that it never goes back? Yes, it does. Has exit time, but I want there to be no transition duration. What's fixed duration? Okay, that won't matter. Is this ever going to exit now? There we go. Okay, so now there's no like gradual transition time between the states. So now I just need to play this animation as a one-shot whenever I have a thing take damage. Gun, connector, gun. Okay. So now what we need to do is make a script that will represent things that can be damaged. On damage dealt, int amount taken, not dealt. So on damage taken, any amount we will okay, we're going to make this virtual so that we can have a default behavior, but it can be overridden by things that that want to handle damage differently. The default behavior will be just to flash the object. We'll start with that. Am I doing this right? Animator. Okay. Animator. Let's see. Play. What's the name of that state? Let's see if this works. Damage flash. I'm actually gonna... Okay, yeah. On trigger. Enter 2D. We'll make it take 1 damage. And print damage taken and the name of the object. Just make sure this is all triggering and that we can see it triggering. Not have exit time. All right. Let's try this. Shoot a bullet. Hey, look at that. Flashes when a bullet hits it. Pure game magic. The bullets continue through it, but that is a problem for after this problem. But that works pretty well. Now I want to try something a little different. I want to try just creating a different obstacle here and attaching this to it, because I don't know how animations translate from one object to another. I don't know how easy it is to just slap this behavior on something. I want to kind of test that real quick. So let's just throw an object down. Let's just make a diamond. Make it big. Give it a damageable component. Can I just copy this thing onto this thing? And give this rigid body 2D, tell it not to be affected by gravity. Collider. Boop. Try this. Is this gonna work? No. Why not? I forgot to give a reference to the animator. Let's try that again. Gun. Yeah, look at that. Okay. Easy to translate this from object to object. Nice. Boop. Oh, I updated my overlay forever ago and it didn't apply. Weapon damage. Well, I updated the name of the task as soon as I finished the task. Nice. All right. So this is cool. So I think the behavior of the bullets should be that when they hit something, they die and send a message to that thing that they've been hit. So I'm just going to sit here being mesmerized by the flashy lights for a minute. Thinking about something. So I'm flashing the color of the sprites, which means that if I want to like tint the sprites at all, that I need a way to return them to the original color after they do the flashing. But I'm going to worry about that later. My dog is popping off. I gotta go pull him in. Be right back. All right, anyway, back to it. I have to total up how many precious minutes my dog barking cost me over the course of this project. Okay, so a couple of things now. Bullets never die. They just fly into oblivion forever, so they're just going to pile up in memory and eventually become a problem. So I'm going to give bullets a lifespan. Which should be pretty easy. Each frame, lifespan, minus equals the amount of time that has elapsed that frame. The lifespan is less than or equal to 0. Destroy me. Very simple. We'll give them, say, a 5-second lifespan. A bullet goes a long way in 5 seconds. Seconds? Okay, just make sure it applied. One, two, three, four, five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see how far these things actually travel. See them going. Going. And disappear. That's probably just about perfect. That's many screens of distance. That's actually probably more than we want. We don't want projectiles traveling like 3 screens away and hitting things that are miles from being seen yet. So I think we probably want this duration set more like 3 seconds? Set it to 3 for now. If they travel like 2 screens, that's probably enough. Past that, we don't want them interacting with parts of the level the player hasn't even gotten to yet. Disappearing way out here. That should be pretty good. Oh yeah, the other consideration is that the player could move and keep up with them, to keep them on screen for longer. So we want to make sure that they're off screen if the player is... Let's get the player... Let's do a test, actually. I want to make sure that the player can never catch up to the bullets and see them disappear. They have to outrun the speed of the player, so... Let's get the player going real fast. Fire our bullets. Okay, you never see those disappear. They're still well off screen by the time. Disappear, disappear, disappear. Yeah, that's all fine. Even if you're going full on in the direction that the bullets are traveling. Ah, here's another interesting question. Do we want bullets to inherit the velocity of the ship? I don't think so. But it looks like the bullets are going very slowly when the ship is flying very fast in their direction. And then when you turn and fire them backwards, it looks like they're going way, way faster. But I think that will make sense when there's background. Yeah, like now you can tell why. Looks like they're going slow when you're going forward. Looks like they're going fast. When there's background, that makes sense in context. So I think we're going to keep that. I don't think it makes sense for lasers to inherit the velocity of the ship. I mean, light doesn't. That's not a good reason for anything. Nobody knows how light works. It's all a magical mystery, more or less. I'll think about whether projectiles should inherit the velocity of the ship or not. Because right now, when they get created, they're just traveling at a fixed speed forever. You could make it so that when you fire a bullet, it always leaves the ship at a particular speed. I think for things like missiles, you probably want that, but for things like lasers, you probably don't. I'm not going to worry about it for now. Just a fiddly detail to consider for later. I hit the 8-hour mark. One full day. What have we covered in 8 hours? Got a background, got a ship. Ship flies around. You can steer the ship. You can attach pieces to the ship of different types. You can fire guns, hit obstacles. Things have visual feedback on damage. And there's a bunch of complicated rules for where pieces can get put on the ship. 8 hours. It's not too bad. There's enough here to play around with and for it to feel fun already. So that's a good start. Like this, just circling around things and trying to shoot them is pretty satisfying already. It's nothing revolutionary, but it's fun. Oh yeah, and some camera controls. All right, what's next? Right, when bullets hit things, they need to do damage to those things, so... When we enter the trigger of another object, destroy the bullet. Let's start with that. If you fly backwards, it doesn't slow the bullet down. The bullets always travel at a fixed speed, so it looks like they're traveling slower. There we go. Look at that. It looks like they're traveling slower, so like if I am going in this direction and fire a bullet in this direction, I'm traveling with the bullet, so it makes the bullet look like it's going slower, like this. See? Looks like those bullets are going slow. And then the opposite effect happens if you fire backwards. They look like they're going super fast because they're going away from you. So I was debating if I wanted to mess with that or not. But I think the answer is not right now. I'm just going to leave it as is. The bullets travel at a fixed speed relative to the ship. Whoa! Smacking into objects is fun. Look at that. It's just floating off into space. Nice. It's pretty satisfying, the little damage flash. For like a little quick effect, it has a lot of... It's very effective. I guess there's a reason that a lot of games do that type of thing. Gun. Okay. I think these bullets... So one interesting thing, I almost didn't test this because I was like, oh, it'll be fine, but it does look like the bullets disappear just before they get to the object. I think that's because the object's colliders are wrong, actually. That is the reason. So that's fine. But I may also take the colliders that are on the bullets and pull them in slightly. Like this. So that it doesn't trigger right at the edge of the laser. Triggers kind of closer to the center of the laser. So then it'll look like the laser is just sort of starting to touch the surface of objects if the collider doesn't line up perfectly. Looks a little bit better. Most of that effect, though, is because these obstacles have their colliders too big. That one's way too big. That's why this is happening. Let's do Polygon Collider 2D. Ah, there we go. I couldn't even see it because it was perfectly aligned with the side of the object. Okay. Yeah, let's give this like a closer to pixel perfect collider. See how that looks. Yeah, now it looks like the lasers are actually hitting the thing. That's a lot better. Cool. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, so let's simulate damage. So there's a couple ways to do this. I need the bullet to send a message to the thing it hits. To apply its effect. So I'm looking at a couple of different ways to do the sending the message. There's a method called send message. But it's a little clunky. Oh, you can pass parameters along with it. The Unity built-in example. Look at this. This is beautiful. Okay, the example is literally applying damage to objects on hit in the Unity documentation. Works for me. Let's do this. When a bullet hits an object, other.gameObject.sendMessage, apply damage, and whatever. I like apply damage as a name better than what I had actually. I'm going to use that. That's kind of what I wanted this to be called, but I couldn't think of how to word it. That's a better way. Because it makes it clear that it's not like being triggered by something else, and it's not like an event. It's like being applied from some outside source. I like apply. So we're sending apply damage. And we'll just call it 1 damage for now. Private int damage value. Whoops. That was not what I meant to do. So damageable things take in an amount of damage. They start with a certain amount of health. Max HP. On start, current HP. Start at max HP. Call this damage amount. And if current HP is less than or equal to 0, destroy me. Just have things blow themselves up when they run out of health. Pretty easy. Let's try this. Put a gun on there, put a gun on there, shoot. Nice. Doesn't it look satisfying when they just blip out of existence with no animation? Let's give them 5 max HP. Let's try that. Actually, let's go 10. Why not? Let's give our ship some guns. Fire bullets. Nice. No errors. Lots of spam. Everything's perfect. All right. So what next? That is basic weapon damage. Oh, that didn't work. Something broke. I was shooting those things and they were not flashing. Why is that? The damage flash stopped working. Why would the damage flash stop working? Did I remove the... Yep, I did. Control Z. Everything's fine. Turns out if you delete code, the code stops working. There we go. All right, so that is basic damage there. I think what I would like to do next is I could do damage to parts of the ship, or I could add another block type to the ship, which I think might be fun. But maybe connectors and guns is fine for now, and I need to be doing ship damage. Should I do ship damage? Ship blocks are fun. That's the thing. They should be lower priority, but adding new block types makes the game really cool. So I'm trying to decide if I want to add another block and then go on with kind of core functionality, or if I want to just keep cruising with core functionality, like the ship being able to take damage. I guess the ship should be able to take damage. I'll be responsible. I have like 30 ideas for block types for the ships that I've just sort of jotted on paper. And I'm excited to work on them. But I will wait. Just gonna fly around in circles and play the non-game forever. All right, let me update the overlay here. Let's update the task name. Ship damage, boom. Okay. So, now things start to get tricky. Got all of this ship building logic, and each of these individual blocks now can become a damageable piece. So let me think. Connector, connector, gun, gun. I'm also going to need a way to test this, like by having something that actually shoots at me. So maybe actually, before I can test the ship taking damage, I need an enemy that shoots stuff at us. So maybe like a really simple enemy that's just a turret would be good. Let's do that. I can test the ship taking damage much easier if I have a little automated thing that... Let's do a simple enemy. All right, let's make an enemy. I think a turret should be a triangle on a circle. Anything else just seems ridiculous. Whoa, why is this not working? Let's make an empty game object. Give it a circle. Whoops. Let's give it a circle. Center it out. Triangle. Center it. Make this a different color. Put it in the front. And enemies should be reddish, right? Except our background is reddish. And our damage flash is reddish. So maybe the enemies should be some other sinister color, like purple. Who's doing that optical illusion thing where the triangle looks like it's pinching the circle in. Okay. So here's our enemy. And it has a triangle to show which way it's aiming. Maybe I'll actually make it skinny in one direction so that we can tell which way it's facing, because otherwise all 3 points look equally like the forward direction. Let's make a script to control it. Make a folder for enemies. Enemy turret. All right. Let's give it some logic. So first of all, this is going to need to know where the player is so that it can aim at them. Do game object. And we'll grab a reference to it. Find any object. What is by type versus of type? By type. I don't actually understand the difference between those. Find any object by type or find object of type. Very odd. I think what I want is find any object by type. Ship. Dot transform. Oh. Dot game object. Let's try that. All right. So. Let's just cheat first. Give it unlimited rotation speed so that it's just always pointed at the player no matter where they go. Player object dot transform dot position minus. Let's just say always point at the player no matter where they go. Give that a try. It flipped upside down, I think. Oh. Disappeared and then reappeared. I'm not sure why. Figure that out in a minute. But there we go. So it points at us. We go over here, it looks at us. Ooh, why did the damage flash trigger? Ah, because it's triggering whenever something goes into our collision. I need to turn that off. So the little turret enemy is watching us all the time. It has unlimited rotation speed. It's just always looking at us no matter what. We can't get around it or behind it because it is perfect right now. And let's make it shoot. Let's copy what we did with gun here. Give it a fire point. A little icon on it. Say the bullets start here. And I'm going to copy some gun logic. May actually copy this and make like a generic projectile shooter. And make it behave pretty much the way the pulse laser does. We have a prefab for the bullet we want. We have a transform for the fire point. We'll have a public method called fire bullet. That anything can call. Okay, and give it a reference to its fire point, give it a reference to the bullet prefab. What is this prefab called? Not sure why that didn't, oh, I was searching the scene, I think. Okay, stick a bullet on there. And then give this a reference to its gun so that our enemy AI can tell the gun when to fire. And how often can it fire? Call this fire rate. Call it fire delay. This will be how many seconds it waits before firing. Fire timer minus equals time.delta time, which is the amount of time that's passed since the previous frame. So every frame we check how much time has elapsed, count down the timer by that much. If the timer is at 0 or lower, we will add back the fire delay, and we will call gun dot fire bullet. Update gun shooting. Should be all we need, I think. And then I'm going to give the enemy fire delay of like 2 seconds, 1 second. Give it a reference to its gun. So now it should shoot a bullet at us every second. Let's see if it works. Look at that. Apply damage has no receiver, huh? Oh, I didn't know Unity events would throw that error if there was nothing to get the message. Interesting. All right. Not bad, not bad. Maybe I can make an alternate version of the bullet that's like red, so we can tell enemy bullets from friendly bullets. It's also possible that we want to make the enemy bullets travel a little slower so that you can try to dodge them. Although the enemies are dumb and they're not going to lead you right now, so we got that going for us, which is nice. It's looking pretty good, though. I think, what if we adopt the Star Wars convention of the good guys having red lasers and the bad guys having green lasers? Totally opposite of what you'd expect. Let's do that. The prefab file name must match the prefab root game object name. Rename the file. I see. I don't remember that being a message that we get thrown before. All right, so let's make the laser red. All right, and let's give the enemy a different color laser. Slow laser, green. Let's make the enemy's lasers green. I'm going to make them a little bit bigger and a little bit slower. Speed will be 25, and I'm going to increase the lifespan so that it's less likely the player can see them disappearing, because the player could travel alongside them or be on screen with them. I think the enemy lasers have to live a little longer than the player lasers for them to not be likely to be visible. And then give that enemy turret a nice green slow laser. Look at that. Big fat green lasers from the enemies. Okay. Look at that. Give us a gun. Give us another gun. We shoot little tiny red lasers. Enemies shoot big chunky green lasers. Everything is beautiful. Oh, the lasers can shoot each other, I think. Yep. So we're going to have to set up like a special bullet layer where the bullets don't collide with each other. Might as well go ahead and do that now, I think. layers, edit layers. Let's make a special bullet layer. Let's put all of the bullets on the bullet layer. And layers, edit layers. Where do you set? I think it's in the physics settings. This is a menu that I don't remember how to find, where you can set what layers will collide with what layers. Preferences? Nope. I think it's under edit something. Project settings, physics. There we go. This is what I was looking for. This is the collision matrix here. It's probably really small and hard to read on the stream, but you tell it what layers can collide with what layers. And we don't want bullets to collide with other bullets. And that's pretty much it. So now it should no longer be possible to shoot down bullets, I think. Yep, can't do it anymore. Nice. All right, cool. Lasers will just go right through each other. This is basically a finished game, right? All right, so the next step here, aside from fixing that error with player collisions, with projectile collisions. Right now it's throwing errors every time a projectile hits something that doesn't have a script attached to it to handle those. Why? Okay, one weird thing did happen here, which is that... Oh, I see. The cockpit of the ship has a collider on it and the guns don't, so that's going to have to change as well. All right, that's fine. So... this is pretty fun to play around with, honestly. So it's throwing some errors if a projectile hits something that doesn't handle damage collisions. So I'm going to have to do something about that, either by making them only hit relevant things or by changing the way I'm sending messages to the receiving object, which is I'm probably going to do the latter. But aside from that, I'm going to make the player ship sections be able to take damage and blow up, which is going to be a multi-step process. First, we need to give them collisions, give them a little damage flash effects, and then after that is done, we're going to have to add logic so that if a chunk gets destroyed, it'll check if other chunks of the ship are supposed to fall off of the ship so that we can get those little chain reactions in. I think that's going to be the next thing worked on, and it's going to be pretty cool because having chunks go flying off the ship and exploding is going to look really neat. But it will be tricky because, well, think about it. If a section gets blown off of the ship, that means for every other block in the ship, we then have to reevaluate whether it's still connected. And the way to do that is going to be by trying to draw a path back to the center through connected pieces that are not yet destroyed. So we're going to be doing kind of a low-key pathfinding algorithm where we're going to have to search our way back to the ship from each block to check if that block is still attached. Or I guess a better way to look at it is we start at the center of the ship and do a breadth first search outward through the connected pieces. And then once we run out of pieces to look at, we take all the pieces that we didn't visit because we didn't reach them and then destroy those. So it's going to be a little breadth first search thing from the center. But all that is going to happen next time. Because I'm at the end of this session here, so I will be on tomorrow, probably earlier than I was today, and for like a full 3 or 4 hour session. So if you've been watching, thanks for watching. I'm going to keep on doing these. And if you follow the channel for our tabletop RPG content, I'm going to be posting the next session for that on YouTube in the next day. We're going to be playing Forbidden Lands again a week from a week from today. I had to think about which day it was. Yeah, we're not playing this week, but we are playing a week from today. So I'll get that one up as well so that people can see the schedule. And in the meantime, I'm going to be doing a bunch of game dev stuff. So come hang out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for chatting.